Hello class, John Marcinizan here. This is the lecture posted for Friday, March 20th, 2020. So this is our last lecture before the first exam, which will be on Monday, March 23rd. It will be worth 65 points. It will cover the elements of music and all the music that we've listened to up through the end of today's lecture. At the end of this lecture, on the two pieces that we will talk about, the two composers, William Byrd and John Dowland, I will give a review for the exam, which will be mailed to you on Monday, March 23rd, at the start of class, 12 p.m. for those in Section 1 and 1 p.m. for those in Section 2. You will have 50 minutes to complete the exam and mail it back to me. And the exam will be on the elements of music, which we covered in class, in person, the first 3 days. March 9, March 11, and 13. Then the rest of the lectures have been online. Monday, March 16th, we talked about medieval music, Gregorian chant, which is monophonic, liturgical, Francesco Landini, an example of early polyphonic from the late medieval period, and it is also secular. Secular meaning music not written for the church. Liturgical, music written for the church. Also the word sacred is music written for the church that we will refer to today as we listen to William Byrd. Last lecture we looked at Josquin du Pré, the cricket, which is a secular polyphonic song, a cappella. All the music thus far has been a cappella, meaning vocal music, music without instrumentation. We also listened to Thomas Wilkes as Vesta was from Latmus Hill Descending, secular, polyphonic, highly polyphonic. As we have discovered, the music is getting more complicated as we move through time. The polyphony is more complicated. It's a madrigal too, a specific genre. We talked about as Vesta from Latmus Hill Descending as being a piece that was flattering towards the Queen. Thomas Wilkes worked for Queen Elizabeth, so the text relates and compares goddesses, Greek goddesses of mythology to Queen Elizabeth, putting them on an equal footing. We talked about the technique of word painting. So this is a broad summary of what we've done so far. And today we'll look more specifically at these two pieces. So let's get to it with our first piece for today. William Byrd. He is an English composer. 1542 to 1623 are his dates. The piece that we will listen to today is a sacred composition, similar to liturgical, meaning written for the church. This is written for the Protestant church as opposed to the Catholic church. We call this piece, the genre of it, as you could see there in parentheses next to the title, Sing Joyfully. This is an anthem. So think of Gregorian chant. Chant is a type of liturgical piece. I made reference to motet, which is on your syllabus under medieval music. That would be a type of Catholic liturgical piece. This is an anthem. It's a Protestant sacred piece. Different words that basically mean the same thing. Hymn, Psalm, we haven't used these terms, but you might hear them. Anthem, motet, chant. These are all different ways of describing vocal music that is written for various denominations of the church. Interestingly, William Byrd wrote for the Protestant church, which had a strong hold on religious life in England at the time. William Byrd was a Catholic. That could pose some problems, but the fact that he worked for the Catholic Church, that he worked for the Protestant church writing anthems, that sort of absolutely worked in his favor. So let's just take a quick look at the Wikipedia page. You could read this article on William Byrd, English composer of the Renaissance. He wrote in many forms current in England at the time, including various types of sacred and secular polyphony. Well, we're going to listen to sacred. He wrote keyboard music, the so-called virginalist school, or an instrument known as the virginal. Although he produced sacred music for the Anglican services, sometimes during the 1570s, he became a Roman Catholic and wrote Catholic sacred music as well. Well, this is one of his Protestant pieces. So, since it talks about the virginalist school, and this is looking ahead, what is that? What does that mean? Writing for the virginal. This is just a little bit of extra information. I'm going to play a short excerpt. This is not part of your required listening, but let's hear it all the same. So look at this instrument. It's a keyboard instrument, right? Played like you would play a piano, a keyboard, a synthesizer, modern keyboard, an organ. But it has a very different sound. Let's hear a little of this. Okay, so that's enough to hear for now, just to get an idea. I play this for you for two reasons. One, William Byrd wrote quite a bit of music for it. And this instrument is the predecessor of what's going to be an important keyboard instrument in the next period, in the Baroque period that we will study after this test, the harpsichord. And the harpsichord is going to look a little different, but it's going to have a similar sound, that twangy sound that we're hearing, right? This doesn't sound like a piano, even though it's played like a piano. On the inside, you have thin strings that are plucked rather than hammered, like you would have on a piano, thick metal strings that are hammered. These are thin strings that are plucked, sort of like you would pluck a guitar. Okay, so enough of that for right now. So William Byrd, Sing Joyfully. Let's take a look at the text. Okay, there it is. Took a picture of this from a book today. You could also look this up online if you wanted to view it again, or just pause this video to look at this. There is the text. This is what we're going to hear. This is a highly polyphonic piece, as we will hear and as we will see. I will also play an additional video, part of it, so that we could see the music and the text unfolding. So, let's start with the form of this piece. What's the form of this piece? A, B, B, A, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay, so basically, you're being told that the music is continuously changing as it goes on. We might refer to this as through composed composition. That's a term that we will use more in later periods. So, the text, sing joyfully unto God our strength, sing loud unto the God of Jacob, take the song and bring forth the timbre. And as you can see, it's a very simple text praising God, right? That's what a sacred piece, a liturgical piece does. Church music, it's about praising God. What's the texture? Okay, well, it says imitation among the voices, imitation again. Certainly it's imitation. And at the very least, it's polyphonic, as we will hear. Word-music relationships over to the right there. Remember that word, word painting. It's on your syllabus, word painting. To me, the most obvious word painting is where it says, where the timeline is 1 minute and 4 seconds, blow the trumpet in the new moon, section E, fanfare-like theme on the word trumpet. So the melody takes on intervals, a melodic line that would be similar to what a trumpet might play. Okay, I think that's enough discussion. Let's listen to this piece.
Please join me in welcoming the National Youth Chamber Choir of Great Britain under the direction of Ben Perry.
This is the link that you have provided in your syllabus, so of course you could watch this again in its entirety without my commentary. Notice right away that simple phrase, sing joyfully, imitation in all the voices, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. 4 lines that sometimes split to more than 4 melodies at the same time. There it is, blow the trumpet, word painting, singing intervals like a trumpet might play in this period that had limited ability on what notes could be played. This is before trumpets had valves that gave it the ability to play chromatically. I'm going to pause it there. You should listen to this in its entirety, but you get the idea. I want to play a little bit. Hopefully I set this up in order. There it is. Excellent. Now I'm going to play a little bit. Here it is again. Sing joyfully. Okay, so here we could actually follow the words. And even if you don't read music, you could see how in soprano 2, sing joyfully. And when we hear it in soprano 1, in the second bar, the second measure of music, this is in 4/4, meaning this is a type of duple meter. Soprano 1 and alto are imitating what was sung by soprano 2. And soprano 2 carries on with a new melody. Then the tenor comes in, sing joyfully, imitating. Before you know it, what do we have? 2 sopranos, 2 altos, 1 tenor, 1 bass. So the 4 basic vocal ranges, but the sopranos and altos are split into 2. 6 melodies at the same time. Polyphony. I know I keep stressing it, but that's the point I want to make. Very complicated, all these melodies at the same time. Singing the same words, but singing them at different times. So some find this very beautiful, and it is. And it can also be very confusing in terms of following what is being said at a specific time. Here we go. There it is again. Blow the trumpet. Blow the trumpet, a clear example of word painting, but there is word painting all through this piece, as there was in the Cricket by Josquin, and most certainly as there was extensively in the Madrigal, as Vesta was from Latmus Hill Descending by Thomas Wilkes, that we listened to in the last lecture. Okay, that's all I have to say about William Byrd and Sing Joyfully. Let's talk about John Dowland and his piece, Queen Elizabeth's Galliard. John Dowland, his dates are 1563 to 1626. He was a great lute player. He wrote for the lute and wrote for vocal music and other instruments as well. So, what is a lute? Okay, so what is a lute? Let's go to page 9 of the syllabus. Lute, pluck string instrument, similar to the guitar, dominating chordal instrument of the Renaissance period. So chordal, meaning it can play more than one note at a time. And also it's worth mentioning, and should be pretty obvious as soon as we see and hear, everything we've listened to up until this point has been vocal music, right? A cappella, without instruments. Oftentimes we have instruments accompanying voice, and the lute was certainly used for that as well. But this is a piece for solo lute, written for the solo lute, the dominating chordal instrument of the Renaissance period. There's more music written for this instrument than any other. That's important to mention, because in the next period, that is going to change. The new dominating chordal instrument will be the harpsichord that I made reference to. The virginal is a keyboard instrument in this period that is developed further into an instrument that is slightly larger but with a bigger sound, slightly bigger sound, nothing like the piano, but it's a chordal instrument, and that becomes the dominating chordal instrument of the Baroque period, which eventually develops into the piano. And to this day, we think of that, certainly in classical music, as being the dominating chordal instrument. But at this point, it is the lute, the predecessor of the guitar. We could do a whole class, we could do a whole course for that matter on guitar music and the evolution of the lute into the guitar. But I won't go into it in great detail, only to say that as the lute falls out of fashion and the harpsichord takes over the role of the dominating chordal instrument in classical music, at the same time, there's a new instrument being developed in the early Baroque period known as the guitar, the instrument that we're all familiar with. So the guitar and the classical guitar, in which becomes any kind of guitar, if you think of electric guitars or acoustic guitars of today, it's not until the early 1600s that instrument is officially on the scene and developing. The lute is considered a very sophisticated, complicated instrument to play. The guitar initially is seen as more of a folk instrument. So it in some ways is shunned and inappropriately seen as a lesser instrument. It can still be played very sophisticated, in a very sophisticated way, but it has it's associated with more popular and simple music. And personally, that's a great thing because it functions well in all different kinds of music. But in the classical world, they only view it more as the popular sounding instrument, and it's almost kind of looked down on until the 20th century, where a few guitar players such as Andre Segovia and contemporaries bring a different light to it, and people start seeing it differently. So anyway, that is a very broad overview. Now let's look more specifically at our instrument of the day, the lute. Here it is. This is what it looks like. Come back to the title in a second. Okay, right off the bat, just that little bit you heard played on the lute, he's doing a lot with those fingers. He's picking bass notes with the thumb and melody lines with the finger. So this is also a polyphonic piece. There's a lot going on here. Now, this instrument may look very foreign to you, but if you notice, it's played very similar to a guitar. It just looks different. It looks like a pear cut in half, and there's some strings on it, a very wide neck. Each string is doubled. So there's a total of 6 different pitches, but each string doubled, making there 12 strings. And then there's often a drone string below that. So as many as 13 strings on the lute. And it is played and even tuned similar to a guitar. I'm going to play an excerpt of this same piece on the guitar to show you that it can sound very similar. Well, every now and then we have a commercial, so we just have to... Okay, good. Here it comes. It's the same piece. I will also say he's playing it in a more contemporary way. He's a term we're not going to use until the Romantic period. He's playing this with more rubato. He's speeding up and slowing down some of the phrases to make it more musical, in his opinion. The first guy is trying to play it in what we might consider to be more authentic, or more in the style that a Renaissance lute player would play. Now, certainly we can't say that for absolute certainty because we don't have any recordings, but at least what we know from readings and talking about the style and how the piece would be played, there would be less variation. So, let's go back to our original piece. Now, this time I'm going to stop on the title. Well, missed it. Okay. There it is. Okay. John Dowland, he's the composer. The most sacred Queen Elizabeth, her Galliard. So I call this Queen Elizabeth's Galliard. So let's break that down. Okay, remember As Vesta was from Latmus Hill Descending. It was a piece that flattered the Queen. Flattering your patron is a good thing. You want to stay in good graces and keep your job. So that piece flattered the Queen with the text. Well, there's no text here, so this flatters the Queen simply with the title, The Most Sacred Queen Elizabeth, her Galliard. So it's written for her. So what is a Galliard? A Galliard is a triple meter dance. It's a dance that was popular in the Renaissance period. Now, in the case of this piece, we might call this a stylized dance, meaning it's based on dance rhythms and forms, but it's meant to be listened to. It's much more complex and sophisticated because it's the dance rhythm, but it's meant to be listened to rather than danced to. So that's what this title is telling us. Let's hear the piece. It's a short piece. We'll hear the whole thing. Look at that. It's 1 minute and 27 seconds. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's a triple meter. Now it even changes meter again. This is a compound triple meter. We didn't talk about that in class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, class, there it is. That's all I have for you today with, as far as the music goes, that is. Now I'm going to continue and we're going to review for this exam. So I'm going to suggest that you have your syllabus in front of you. I'm going to go through some specific pages on this syllabus and just give a recap of everything that we've discussed up until this point and what you should know for this exam. So first, let me talk a little bit about the format under these unusual circumstances, how we are going to do this. So there's not going to be any listening identification on this exam. I'm going to send you a Word doc. There will be 4 sections, section A, B, C, and D. Section A will be short answer questions. There will be a statement. Right under that statement in bold print, you will see the word answer. You will type your answer right next to where it says answer. In many cases, there will be short answer, 1 word, or a very short sentence. Part B will be multiple choice. So part A will have 9 questions. Part B will be multiple choice. Questions 10 through 15. A statement, and then A, B, C, or D, you put the letter in the blank provided. Just type it in that blank. Make sure you type it in the blank. Section C will be 16 through 25. That will be matching. So on this page, you will see a word such as octave, dissonance, tempo, etc. And then underneath all of those, you will have different definitions. It'll be matching. You put the letter A, B, C, etc. next to the octave, or dissonance or syncopation in the blank provided. It will be pretty obvious when you see it. And then the last section, 26 through 35, will be true and false statements about the 6 compositions that we listen to. Okay, I'm going to go over all of this in detail. So listen up, have your syllabus ready, pause and rewind the video whenever you need to. Contact me, email me with any questions. We could talk if you need to talk. So let's go. Let's look here. I'm going to go through each piece and give a broad overview and things that you want to make sure you know for this exam, especially the true and false section, right? Hint, hint, write this down. Dies Irae are the first of the 6 pieces that we listened to. Go back and listen to it again. This is a plain chant, Gregorian chant. What are some of the characteristics we talked about? It's liturgical. Remember that, written for the Mass. What is the texture? Monophony. Know those 2 things especially. It's liturgical, it's monophony. Music written for the Roman Catholic Church. Our second piece, Francesco Landini, Behold Spring. Right? Also, actually, both, I should mention that too. Both of these pieces are from the medieval period. Francesco Landini would be later than the Dies Irae, which would be roughly 500, 600. The Francesco Landini were into the 1300s, so this would be late medieval, and music is now polyphonic. It's a simple polyphonic piece, but nevertheless it is polyphonic and it is a secular song. So know those 2 things. Landini, texture, polyphonic, meaning more than one melody, and it is a secular song where the Dies Irae is monophony, one melody by itself, and it is liturgical. Those are the 2 pieces we listened to from the medieval period. Renaissance period. Wednesday, March 18th, we discussed Josquin Dupré, The Cricket. This is an example of early Renaissance. It is a cappella, meaning without instrumentation, as was the Dies Irae and Francesco Landini. But know about Josquin. It's a cappella. It's polyphonic. And it uses word painting. Musical representation of specific poetic images. Word painting. Okay? Thomas Wilkes, As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending, also a cappella, also uses word painting, and the genre, it is a madrigal. That's a secular piece. Josquin is secular. This, As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending, is secular, not written for the church. William Byrd, moving to today's lecture, William Byrd. It's a sacred piece of music. We could say liturgical. It's written for the Protestant church. It's an anthem. It is religious music. So it is not secular. It's liturgical. It's sacred, whichever word you choose to use. It also uses word painting, right? We talked about that. Blow the trumpet in the new moon, right? But there's other word painting, but we looked at that phrase in particular. I pointed it out twice in both videos. And the texture is polyphonic. Absolutely, it's polyphonic. John Dowland, the last piece that we listened to, the 6th of our required compositions, also from the Renaissance. It is for solo lute, the dominating chordal instrument of the Renaissance period. It is a galliard, the popular dance, always in triple meter. Galliard, it's in the title, Queen Elizabeth's Galliard. Instrumental dance music, says right there of the Renaissance period. Okay, so know those pieces. All right, so now I'm going to go through the elements of music, right? So all the information I am giving you now, it's all on your syllabus and it's all in the lecture, and it will be asked in the format that I just mentioned. Either Section A, which is short answer. Section B, which is multiple choice. Section 3, which is matching. And section section D, A, B, C, or D. Section D, which are true or false questions. Okay, so know those specific things about the pieces. Now let's go through the syllabus. So again, all the information is there, but I'm going to go through all of it. And if I talk about it, make sure you know it. And if I skip over it, don't worry too much about it, right? Okay, so going down elements of music under pitch. Make sure you know what an interval is, the distance between two pitches. I might ask you that in the form of multiple choice. I might ask it in the form of matching, or short answer, or true or false, right? You get the point, right? You get the idea. Octave. Know what an octave is. The distance between one musical pitch and another with half or double the frequency. Dynamics. The volume of sound. How loud or soft something is. Dynamics. Timbre or tone color. The quality of musical sound. So know that timbre and tone quality mean the same thing. They are synonymous. Okay, moving on. Following my notes where I made some markings, okay? All important stuff. But I had nothing to say about that. I'm going right to the next page and looking at, syncopation. Right? So again, I might ask this in the form of short answer, or most likely as matching. Involves a variety of rhythms which are in some way unexpected. Know what syncopation is. Know what tempo is. Simplest definition you will ever have. Speed indicates how fast or slow a musical composition is. Under melody, know what a tune is. Tune is a word we might use for melody that tells us that it is easy to recognize, easy to memorize, something that's simple. A simple melody we might refer to as a tune. Sequence, know what that is. A melodic phrase that is repeated at different pitch levels. Motive or motif, a short melodic phrase that may be effectively developed. Cadence, a point of arrival signaling the end of a musical unit. And then, moving on, musical texture, right? We have 3 of them. Know what, and these are easy too, I would think so. Know what monophony is, one melody by itself. Example, Dies Irae is the only piece that we listen to that is monophonic. The texture is monophony. Polyphony, 2 or more melodies at the same time. Landini, late medieval period, simple polyphony. Then we move to the Renaissance period. Josquin the cricket, a little more complicated, as Vesta was from Latmus Hill Descending, very much more complicated, as was the anthem Sing Joyfully by William Byrd. Polyphonic music. And homophony, one melody with harmonic support. Actually, we didn't hear any example that was just homophonic or homophony is listed there. We will start hearing that in early Baroque music when we talk about opera, a new genre in the Baroque period. Okay, page 7. Moving on, page 8. Under key and mode, well, we have interval again. I already mentioned that. Chromatic scale. Know that it has 12 notes. How many notes in a chromatic scale? 12. Why? What's the importance of that? Well, those are all the notes in our musical system. That's the reason why it's important to know that. There are only 12 notes that you can hear in any composition, whether it's classical music, jazz, rock, pop, anything, no more. And most music is based on a 7-note scale, such as the major scale, which would be an example of a diatonic scale. So know that a major scale has 7 notes. What is the tonic? Know what that word is. The tonic is the main note in a scale. Under harmony, what is chord? 3 or more notes played together. That's what a chord is. And we talked about the lute as being a chordal instrument, right? Can play more than one note at a time. Think about it. A singer can only sing one note at a time. A flute can only play one note at a time. Bowed string instruments, technically they can play more than one at a time, but we think of them as playing one note at a time. A violin, for the most part, does not play chords. It plays melodies, one note at a time. Consonance is a stable sound. I played some examples in class when I had my guitar, right? Music that sounds at rest. It's resolved. Subjectively speaking, we might say that it is pleasing to the ear. And dissonance would be the opposite of that. Unstable sound, not at rest, needs resolution. Subjectively speaking, we might say not pleasing to the ear. Okay. And then finally, and then this is kind of a recap of what we already said about the 6 pieces. Under medieval music, right? Gregorian chant tells you some things about it. Melodies set to Latin text, the official music of the Roman Catholic Church. Mainly remember, it is monophonic. We talked about church modes. I'm not going to ask you anything about that, but know that these scales are different than major and minor. That's why this early music sounds different. One of many reasons why it sounds different. Organum, that's an important word. Earliest form of polyphonic music. Remember that. Organum, earliest form of polyphonic music. Skipping down to a cappella, vocal music without instrumental accompaniment. Everything we've listened to other than the lute piece by John Dallin has been a cappella, vocal music without instrumental accompaniment. And then under Renaissance music, I made reference to the motet, but we didn't listen to a motet. Madrigal, certainly talked about that. Secular song introduced in Italy that became popular in England. We listened to Thomas Wilkes' As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending. A madrigal frequently uses word painting, musical representation of specific poetic images. As we heard in that song, came running down the hill. You have a lot of descending scales. The melody goes down, or it goes up if they're running up a hill, which the text actually says. Very specifically matching the words, the text, with the music. And so we heard it in the Thomas Wilkes Madrigal. We heard it in Josquin. We heard it even in the Anthem by William Byrd. Word painting is something that you hear a lot in most vocal music. And certainly the lute. Plucked string instrument similar to the guitar, dominating chordal instrument of the Renaissance period. Know that. Okay. That is it for now. This is today was the lecture on second part of Renaissance music and the review. As always, any questions, email me. I will email you back in real time if you contact me during class time. Otherwise, within 24 hours, usually less than that. If we need to talk, leave a phone number. I will call you. And remember to be at your computer during class time on Monday. So if you're in section 1, be there at noon. If you're in section 2, be there at 1 p.m. I will email you a Word doc of the exam at that time. You have 50 minutes to complete it and mail it back to me to get credit. See you soon.